Agil, planering, säkrade Unibets marknadsposition. Jag heter Johannes Westorden och jag är founding partner på Addedo. Och idag har jag hjälp av Mr. Ronald Owen. Ron som är pre-sales konsult på Adaptive Insight. Addedo som jag kommer på är ett konsultföretag som då har fokus på koncernrapportering, planering och analys. Vi har då påbörjat ett samarbete sedan förra året med Adaptive. Adaptive är ju ett molnbaserat verktyg för planering. Och vi tycker då att det här verktyget som vi ser som väldigt starkt borde flera i Sverige vara intresserade av. Först vill jag också tacka alla som har tagit sin tid här under lunchen för att lyssna på det här webbinariet. Och tanken med den här agendan är att vi ska vi se hur jag kommer till nästa sida. Det var inte så lätt. Där har vi det. Att vi ska prata om Unibet och deras active planning, titta på deras utmaningar, men även titta på andra generella utmaningar som de flesta företag står inför. Sen kommer vi också ha en kortare beskrivning av Adaptive Insight som företag och även då berätta vilka resultatet av att Unibet valde att arbeta och nyttja Adaptive Insight som verktyg. Den största delen av det här webbinariet kommer Ronald Owen att stå för. Och han kommer berätta om hur Unibet använder då scenarioplanering för att bättre förstå hur olika marknadsfluktuationer påverkar Unibets och deras utfall. Vi har 45 minuter på oss, så vi kommer i slutet att öppna upp för frågor. Och vi har siktat in på att sluta ungefär 1:15. Självklart, om ni inte vill ta frågorna här och nu, så har ni då möjlighet att mejla de här enskilda frågorna till mig, och i slutet så kommer ni även få min mejladress. Ja, vilka utmaningar hade då Unibet? Ja, Unibet är ett snabbväxande företag och de har haft många förvärv den senaste tiden. Och man har idag över 10 miljoner registrerade användare och detta har man i över 100 länder. Unibet verkar även på en marknader där regleringar ändras konstant och har en stor påverkan på Unibets utfall. Och Unibet använde då tidigare Excel för att hantera sin prognos. Och de hade över 100 olika kalkylblad som var uppbyggda i Excel. Detta sammantaget så blev det ju väldigt tidskrävande och det var väldigt ineffektivt att arbeta med Excel. Man behövde då ett verktyg för att snabbt kunna skapa olika what-if-scenarier för att enklare kunna analysera och få insikter om hur de här förändringarna påverkade. Så de utmaningar kan man säga att det fanns konstant förändrade regleringar på olika marknader. Man har en snabbväxande företag med ständigt tillkommande verksamheter. Så har man en Excel-modell som var svår att underhålla, väldigt komplex och då personberoende. Dessa utmaningar är ju inte helt unika, möjligtvis de här regleringarna, men att man jobbar i Excel, att man är snabbväxande eller att man växer, att man sker någon form av konstanta förändringar är ju ingenting ovanligt. Och man kan ju säga att när man tittar på olika prospekt och företag så är det ju inte så ovanligt att man jobbar väldigt i separata silon. Man bygger upp sina olika modeller helt separata från varandra För man måste göra det och man då försöker förutse någon form av framtid och man planerar var för sig och sen kanske man skickar de här filerna mellan varandra. Det gör ju att det är svårt att hantera olika ändringar och man gör olika antaganden. Det är väldigt komplicerande och väldigt krävande om man vill titta på olika scenarier. Och till sist brukar man få ihop en budget eller en planering. Men det tar oftast väldigt lång tid. Om man tittar då på Unibet och många av de här företagen så är det ju så att den här själva operativa uppgifterna som att samla ihop data, att säkerställa att man fått in informationen, att hantera e-mailen, kontrollera, det tar ju den största delen av tiden. Och det där man vill jobba med själva analysen är kanske de sista 20%. Och hur kan man då vända på den här pyramiden så att man har mestadels tiden är att man jobbar med analyserna för att få de här insikterna. Det finns någonting som kallas active planning. Och det är ju då någonting som är mer proaktivt eller mer statiska planeringen. Man brukar lägga upp det här i tre olika delar. Det handlar om ett samarbete, att verktyg ska kunna hantera både en komplexitet och mycket data, volymer. Och så är det också någonting att verktyget måste kunna hantera ständiga förändringar. Så när man jobbar med active planning så handlar det om partnerskap och samarbete, business planning där man jobbar med olika kopior, olika drivare. Och så jobbar man med då olika what-if-analyser och scenarier. Om man tittar på Unibet då, så Neil Bambury som är då financial planner och analyst manager på Unibet. Han har ett citat här som väldigt mycket av den här aktiva planning. Han pratar ju om sit down with senior management. Han pratar om play with scenarios, test the questions and the assumption. Och de här delarna är ju väldigt mycket av aktiv planering. Det är liksom ett partnerskap. Man tittar på olika scenarier och skapar olika what-if-analyser. Och det resultatet då som Unibet fick av att implementera Adaptive Insight är följande 3 huvuddelar. Det är att man snabbade upp processen. Man pratar om att man har snabbat upp processen med upp till 12 veckor. Genom Adaptive Insights möjlighet att hantera what if och scenarier så har man en helt annan möjlighet att kunna leka runt med siffrorna för att förstå vad olika förändringar eller regleringar vad det innebär för Unibet. Och detta gör ju att man kan jobba mycket mer med analys och få de insikter som utav de här förändringarna. Innan Ron tar vid så tänkte jag också bara nämna några ord om Adaptive Insight. Ett företag som har funnits under ett antal år men har än så länge inte så många kunder i Sverige, men kundstocken växer. Och idag så har Adaptive ungefär 3300 kunder och de finns i runda slängar 50-tal länder. Jobbar med 200 olika partners i de här olika länderna. Adaptives arkitektur är ju born in the cloud. Den finns bara i en SaaS-lösning, alltså man köper det som en tjänst och det är Adaptive som ser till att systemet rullar då. Man behöver inte installera någonting i egen miljö. Om man tittar på olika analyshus som Gartner, Forrester och så vidare, så rankar de Adaptive oerhört högt. Och i många fall som en leader i den här quadraten. Adaptive Insights huvudkontor finns i Kalifornien, Palo Alto, det är ju i Silicon Valley. Omsätter ungefär 600-700 miljoner svenska kronor, 80 miljoner dollar i revenue, och under ett flertal år har haft då en tillväxt på 30% om årligen. Det var lite kort om Unibet generellt och lite grann även om Adaptive Insights. Nu tänkte jag lämna över ordet till Ron Owen, så ska han berätta mer om och visa mer hur systemet ser ut. Så att jag stoppar den här delningen av skärm, så kommer Ron att visa sin skärm istället. Ron, it's time for you to enter the scene now. So Ron will start his work now, and thank you for being able to do this work here today, Ron. Thank you. It's all yours.
Thanks, Johannes. You need to, you've unshared your screen. That's fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ron Owen, and I'm going to give you a brief view of Adaptive, but using the Unibet case study. What I want to do today is to actually show you how Unibet uses Adaptive to make faster, more reliable business decisions. Now, the demonstration you're going to see today clearly is not using their data model. That would be unethical and unprofessional. But I will be able to demonstrate just how Unibet uses Adaptive itself. You may have already seen a slide very similar to this during Johannes' presentation. This is Neil Banbury, who's the FP&A manager, and he talks about being able to sit down with senior management and look at the numbers and projections so that it makes it easy for them to play with scenarios. And this is what I want to show you first of all, is just how do you actually have scenario analysis in Adaptive. So to do that, I've moved across to my standard Adaptive model. And what we're going to do this morning is we're going to look at some information within here. So for example, I've got a series of sheets of information, and we're going to be looking at information for a particular view of data. So we're going to be looking at this particular point, we're going to be looking at information for my revenue information for a particular organization or a particular company. We're going to be looking at this for a particular regional company. So we're going to be looking at this for the North Sales region. And this is going to show me data and information by product, by customer, for all of the unit sales and the prices that are within the model itself. So if I take this down to a product view and a single customer view, we'll be able to see the screen actually appear with a little bit more color on it. So now we can actually see information where the user would be able to go and interact with the data. Anywhere where you can see a white cell of data means that they can go and update that information. Anywhere where you can see a grey cell, that means that this is a calculated value. In this example here, this scenario where we're going to play out, we're actually looking at information for the price of a particular product, and then being able to mess around with the unit values and to play around with those values to be able to get to a revenue value, and that revenue value can then be driven all the way up into their into their profit and loss statement. However, there are multiple versions where we can actually do this. So if I was to look at this information currently for a particular budget, if they're running their budget cycle, they'll be able to see this at that level. What Adaptive allows Unibet to do is to actually play and do scenario playing in different versions. So you can see here that I've actually highlighted my budget what if scenario version. So going in here, for example, if I just wanted to increase that value to 2,500, I can increase that value, I can apply a breakback of that value and then save that information, and that will automatically impact the numbers that I've got sitting there for my net revenue. But they not only want to be able to do this, they also want to be able to impact things like price changes and things like if something happens in the regulations of the online gaming industry, how they can very quickly model those changes. And this is what they're actually doing at Unibet today. To do that, they will be looking at their sales drivers. So they're going to be picking up the sales drivers and actually looking at that information as well. So we're going to do exactly the same as that there. Just waiting for... So now you can see I've got a different screen. I'm now still looking at information for my budget what if scenarios, but I'm now looking at my price per unit value. So this is relating directly back to the values of the prices that you can actually see on the screen here. So if we was to go in here and we was to actually update the value for the price, we could do that very, very quickly. So let's make that 120. Let's copy that forward to the end and save that information back. And this is a sort of scenario playing that they do at Unibet. So then if I just refresh that information, you'll be able to see the instant impact of that data change, whereby we're now looking at that information and it's now automatically updated those values. Let's just make sure that that's correct. Product A1, yeah, okay. But they do more than that. If they've got regulations that they need to abide by, they need to actually be able to understand and monitor that as well. One of the things that they do is they do a whole series of scenario analyses of information. So let's just go in here and pick up the right set of values, and then we can actually look at some scenario analysis information in here. So imagine, if you will, what's happening over in the UK at the moment. We're going through this whole Brexit scenario, and organisations such as Unibet will need to actually understand what is the impact of that for them. So they can run a scenario, for example, looking at where they are in their current version of the organisation, what their revenues are, what their costs are, and so on and so forth. What would be a best and worst case scenario? But what would happen if, for example, we did have a hard Brexit? Would that actually increase their revenues? So let's say that that doesn't. Let's say that has a negative impact on their revenues. Let's say if it's a soft impact, that there's actually going to be a 2% increase. And if there was no Brexit at all, that would be a 5% increase on their revenues. Again, you can very quickly play around with other values in here. So if I just said that that was going to be 3.2%, there, and just save that information, and you can very quickly see the impact of that across the whole of the bottom line down here. So you can see instantly what the hard and the soft and the no Brexit would actually impact compared to where they are currently today. So that's the sort of thing, when they come talk about scenario plan, that they are able to do. Whether that is exactly what they're doing, I'm not terribly sure, but I'm pretty sure that that is the sort of thing that they would want to be able to do. My second point within this presentation is being able to look at acquisitions. You'll see on the screen another quote from Neil, that they are a very fast growing company, and that they actually bought companies in the last 2 years. So they needed to make sure that they selected an organization to grow with them. One of the things that Neil really does talk about in his case study is the fact of just how easy he finds Adaptive not only to use, but also to model and plan with. Being able to actually grow with an organization is one of the key things that Adaptive can actually do. Adaptive are really good at actually going in there and actually growing with an organization. So if your organization is acquisitive, if you're thinking about actually making, and buying other companies, you don't have to worry about your underlying IT technology. Adaptive will grow with you. Let me see if I can actually show that in real time. Let's go back again and actually have another look at some data. In this particular moment, we're going to actually look at this information in a particular profit and loss sheet. We can see here that we're actually looking at information for my sales north region and look at this information for my working budget region. Under the organization structure, we can see here how this organization is actually structured. You can see here that I've got, as a total company, I've got 3 companies of information. Within each company, I've got different business areas, and it's all hierarchically structured, which means it allows you to automatically aggregate the data, and then you'll have that numbers coming at you at real time. However, businesses are fast moving. You don't want to have your business stand still and you have to wait for your IT system to catch up. So what happens then if we were to actually go and acquire a new company? Now, one of the things that Neil talks about in his case study is just how easy adaptive is to actually manage. So let's look at that now in the admin section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to take the assumption that we're actually going to add a new company within here. And in fact, what I'm going to do two things. Within the US structure in here, I'm going to add a new region. So let's go in there and add that new region in here. This is going to be called new region. And it's actually going to roll up to my USA company. So I'll just drill into that information in there and pick up that value there. That means it automatically picks up the currency of choice that I've got in there, and I've now created that. And I'm going to accept the changes and save that information. And then you'll see at the bottom there, my new region is automatically populated. If I was creating and adding a new company, the same rules apply. So if it's going to be my new company, I can add that information in. I can specify that if my new company was actually going to be in a different currency, I could specify which particular currency it's actually going to be in, and I can add that in as well. Where this actually impacts is when we actually go back in and look at information, for example, in that P&L sheet. So though I've added that new company, I don't have to do anything else. In my region, for example, I can now go in here and I can actually see my new region in this sheet. In fact, I can see this new region in any of the sheets of information. So it's immediately ready to use. It says there's no data to display because obviously I've got no numbers in there at the moment. I'm just going to unsuppress the missing values, and we'll be able to see that it's automatically ready for me to go in there and to start populating that information. Similarly, so you can see there down the bottom that it's also picked up the currency of my choice. Similarly, if I was to go in here now and actually look at that for that new company, it does exactly the same thing. So this whole concept of being easy to use and easy to power is something that adaptive is very, very good at. Again, just unsuppressing the values in there, we'll be able to see my full P&L for my new company. I can very quickly start to work with that information. One of the things that is worth noting with Neil is his enthusiasm for adaptive. And that's borne out in the next statement. This is a great quote, and I wish all our customers would actually say this, even though it's true. If I had one word to describe adaptive, I would say it was easy. Adaptive is really easy to implement, which we've just seen. I've just shown that to you. It's also easy to train users, so that means we can get people in the business using it from day one. So there's no upskilling per se of new people. It doesn't take very long to learn how to be very proficient and an expert in adaptive. The point that I've highlighted, though, is the point that I actually want to demonstrate. It's also easy to generate analysis and dashboards off the back of all of the data that it collates. How does it do that in adaptive? So we've been looking at some information so far with regards to the data and with regards to the administration. Now, when it comes to actually looking at some of the output, we'll be able to see that information as well. So we're going to look at some output, some standard reporting output, for example, and we'll be able to see just how easy it is to actually look at information, to interrogate information, and to drill down into the details. So we can actually set up reports to actually pick up different areas, different periods, different parts of the organization, but also to actually drill down into some of the detail of this information. As an example here, we're looking at an expense report that's showing March for 2018 and looking at the year-to-date values. I'm looking at my actuals, which have been loaded, my budgets. I'm calculating different variances. So I've got a variance here. I've got some zones of information. I've got some numbers that are big red numbers that I actually want to be able to interrogate. One of the things I may need to do is to find out why this number is so large against this particular budget value. There's a couple of ways I can do this. I could either go down this hierarchy and select each one of these individually to find out who is actually causing me problems within here, or I could simply just flip the report. So by selecting the organization menu option here, I can now flip this report, and I can now see at the top is my big red flag with this value here. This is clearly something that I need to investigate. So I can go in here and I can actually drill into this information and to drill into the transactional view of that data. And now I can see, in this particular example, there's certain sales teams within the organization who've clearly been outspending their budget. When Neil talks about how easy this is to use, that's the sort of thing he's talking about. But it's also just how powerful it is for users to go in there and actually create their own reports. So just to show that, I'm just going to very quickly create a report in front of you. That particular report that we saw a few moments ago, I can very quickly create that simply by using the web report writer and taking the information that I require out of my elements on the left-hand side, such as my expenses, and dragging and dropping those into the pivot table on the right-hand side. In this example, I'm going to pick up a particular period. Maybe it's going to be January, and I'm going to drag that into my columns. I'm also going to drag in some versions of data because we want to look at our actuals, but we also want to look at a particular budget version. We're going to pick up the working budget version at this point in time. To create a variance, that's a calculation. I can simply go and drag in the difference in here and then change that value to specify that that is going to be a variance. You can see here that I can display it as a value or as a percentage. There's no limit to the number of columns and the number of rows you can actually have. There's no limit to the way you can actually stack the columns and rows. So if you actually wanted to stack these rows and columns, you can actually do so. Of course, I want to look at this as part of my organization structure. So I'm going to go in here, and you'll notice in here, there's my new company that we created a few months ago. So that's rendered into the reporting area as well. In this particular example, I'm going to grab the operations section and bring that in there. Now to create those drop-down boxes, I simply drag and drop the ones that I want as parameters. And then I can just run that information, and automatically I can see the data that I'm looking for. So remember, we were looking at information for the sales North region for March 2018. If I rerun that, and I then start to drill into the data, there's that 2396. I can then take that information and I can drill back into the transactions, and you'll see that I've not written one line of programming code at all. We can take this view and we can export it to Excel or into a PDF. Adaptive also comes with an Excel add-in called Office Connect. So this is an add-in for PowerPoint and Word as well as Excel. But what this gives you the ability to do is to go in here and to update a particular report that you've already got designed, and then just bring in adaptive data into here. You'll see here, if I highlight my adaptive cells, which ones are my adaptive cells, and therefore I've got a few down here that are not adaptive cells. That's because I haven't actually finished doing this report yet. So to create and update this report is exactly the same way as if you saw me build it in the web report writer. I can simply go in here, I can pick up the elements that I require, and simply by dragging and dropping them, I can overlay those values into this report here. If I then refresh that, it will go away to adaptive, and it will automatically update the data values here in this particular report. I can then link this report directly to PowerPoint reports and to Word documents so that the numbers would automatically be updated every time I refresh the reports. As an example of that, if I go to my workbook properties and I actually change the reporting parameter date and say I now want to run this report for April, I can very quickly go in there and I can update that report, and it'll automatically filter through all of the new values for April. And you'll notice that it's actually tracked back the previous 5 months of data in there. So it's rolled the data forward and backwards exactly how I wanted it to. Because this is Excel, I can use Excel to create all different types of reports, all different types of charts. But Adaptive does come with its own dashboard. And this is where I'm actually going to finish this part of the presentation, because the dashboard that Adaptive has, called Discovery, sits on top of the application, and it allows you to actually do your analysis in real time. I can go in here and I can create my own set of views of information. You'll notice in here that wherever I move my cursor, it actually highlights a particular value. Wherever it highlights something means I can actually go and drill into the detail on that. You'll see here I've also got multiple tabs of information. So whether I actually want to see things like my finance values, things like my sales analysis, or indeed if I actually want to look at information for my CRM or my production stats, I've got all of that information in here as well. So not only financial information, but also non-financial information. And as I said, it's interactive. It's interactive in a couple of ways. I can actually drill into this information and again pick up, there's my new company again. I've just thought I'd highlight that for you. And I can go in here and I can actually drill into detail. If I wanted to look at the UK values, for example, for this particular organisation, I can see that information instantly. You'll notice in here that it's also changed the currency, so it allows me to do that. It also allows me to automatically flip currencies back to my base currency if that's what I need to be able to do. But it also allows me to actually interrogate an individual number. So as an example, if I'm drilling into that product revenue value and I go and actually explore that, I may want to look at all of my top products and see which is my top selling product. I may want to then look at that by customer and see that by a particular customer. And you'll see here that customer 1 is my top customer. Or is that necessarily the case? Maybe if I start that process again and actually start with customer first, we may find a different result. And indeed, it's customer 5 who's my top customer. And that's because customer 5 goes across the whole sweep of products that we've actually got within this particular demonstration model. Everything you see here in this particular part of the application is completely code-free. There's no programming. If you wanted to go in here and actually build the dashboards, you can actually go in there and do so. And again, this is one of the things that Neil highlights for Unibet, is the fact that it's just that so easy to use. At this point, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to hand back to Johannes, and we're going to take some questions from the audience.
Thank you, Ron. Great presentation. Very impressive, I must say. I hope you all find the same. Think the same. I will change to Swedish now. Så tack så mycket, Ron. Vi har några slides kvar och det är egentligen då questions och frågor och svar. Om det är några som har om ni har några frågor så kan ni ta dem nu. Så jag tror att Ron he opens up and everyone will be unmuted. So please go ahead. Any questions? Det kan ju vara så att man tycker att det är fel forum att ta de här frågorna. Då är det så här att ni kan mejla till mig med min e-mailadress som ni ser nu. Det är alltså johannes.westergarden@addedo.com. Alternativt så kan ni gärna slå mig en signal på 070-321-7733. Kan också gå in på Adaptives hemsida som är då adaptiveinsights.com. Ni kan hitta väldigt mycket information om verktyget. Vi kommer att sända ut den här presentationen och ni kommer att accessa Unibets case study. Klockan är typ 20 lite för tidsmässigt, vilket är bra ju. Så att jag tänkte återigen se, är det någon som har funderat ut någon fråga här och nu som vill ta, så har ni möjlighet att göra det nu.
Johannes, jag ser inte din skärm. Om du kan dela med så vi kan se dina kontaktdetaljer.
Okej. Då ska jag sätta min skärm här. Så, där har vi den.
Sådär.
Så mina kontaktdetaljer, tack Fred. Kontaktdetaljerna är då johannes.westergarden@addedo.com eller då plus 46 070 321 7733. Fred, när du ändå kommer in här, Fred Olsson från Adaptive, är det någonting du vill säga innan vi tackar för oss för den här gången?
Nej, jag får tacka för det också. Väldigt, väldigt bra och informativt. Och som sagt var, Addedo och Adaptive står till förfogande om ni är intresserade. Vi kan gärna göra ytterligare en demo eller titta lite grann på era individuella behov och så vidare också. Så det är bara att höra av er, så ska vi stå till förfogande. Men tack.
Gör gärna det. Vi har ett antal kunder i Sverige redan så man kan prata med om man vill göra det. Men oftast kan man då tänka sig att man börjar med någon form av workshop där man tittar vidare på något specifikt problem som ni vill att Adaptive ska kunna lösa för er. Så som sagt, vi kommer skicka ut den här presentationen och jag hoppas att vi kommer ha en fortsatt kontakt här. Jag vill också önska er en god lunch, en kvart på sig om man brukar luncha mellan 12 och 1. Tack så mycket, på återhörande. Tack.